The weekend was not without drama.
We love drama.
He was utterly phenomenal this weekend.
I think the driver of the week has to win.
I fervently disagree.
Ultimately, there comes a breaking point, and this might be it for Max.
You asshole.
I think the cat's already out of the bag.
And that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. Welcome to Speed with Harvick and Buxton, fueled by Poet.
Let's talk racing, Will.
Let's do that, mate. It's nice to be back in the studio.
It is. I think that the lighting, everything works. I mean, we're actually getting somewhere, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice not to have an internet connection that's run by a hamster on a wheel. So my apologies for that for the last 2 weeks. It was either the audio was wrong or the visual was wrong. But I'm here in the flesh. It's lovely to be back, man.
We're happy to have you in the studio.
How was the weekend?
We had a great weekend. It was actually pretty refreshing to get back on the short track. We had our most popular driver win with Chase Elliott. So the NASCAR Cup Series, it was Chase Elliott who came out on top, making the move late on a restart and leading the final 69 laps to beat Denny Hamlin, who had dominated much of the day with 292 laps led. Elliott capitalized late to secure his second Martinsville win, moving up to fourth in the standings, while Tyler Reddick remains the points leader. And I guess my question is, what did you think of it? Because I know from our standpoint, having Chase Elliott win is massive for our sport.
I just felt for Denny.
Yes.
You know, like, so dominant in the early part. What led 3/4 of the race, 2/3 of the race?
292 or 400 laps.
So nearly 3/4 of the race. I thought he drove beautifully. But we were talking about it before we came on air, as you were saying, like, that is just typically the way it goes there.
Well, and Alan Gustafson, Chase Elliott's crew chief, made an absolutely brilliant pit call. Brought him in early during green flag pit stops. He was, I think, the first car to actually pit under green, which if the caution comes out, your day's over at that point. But the way that the cautions fell, he actually, when the caution came out, he went from 9th where he was running all the way up to 2nd when the caution came out. And then Denny had some trouble on the last couple restarts and spun the tires. Right? Yeah. And Chase Elliott got control of the race. He had a great car, but they made a bold pit call and it paid off for him.
I really like Gibbs this year. I really like him. Like, he's so close.
So close.
Every weekend.
And that's the crazy thing that we saw this weekend. The big three are back.
Yeah.
It was Joey Logano rebounded from going 3 laps down last week at Darlington to finish 3rd this week. So Penske, all 3 cars ran in the top 10. Josh Berry was in the top 10 all weekend. But the Gibbs cars have been lights out pretty much everywhere that we've went. And we've been asking, where's Hendrick?
Yep.
Where's Hendrick Motorsports? And this weekend, Martinsville, they won their 31st race as an organization at Martinsville with Chase Elliott winning.
That's huge. Also huge. Can we get a round of applause in the studio, please? Can we get a round of applause? For our man Kevin Harvick, nominated for the Hall of Fame at the earliest possible opportunity. You're too young to be in a Hall of Fame, surely.
Well, I'm not that young. I'm 50. So I'm like an old, washed-up race car driver. But it was Mike Helton. They surprised me again, as I've learned that Fox is very much into surprises when they can get me. They got me again. And Mike Helton came to our pre-race set. And Mike was the president of NASCAR at the time that I came through. And I pushed every button that you could possibly push from the driver standpoint. I was in trouble a lot. But Mike was he was the father figure of many of us that were pushing those buttons all the time. And I have the utmost respect for Mike and the things he did for the sport. But to have him come present that to me during the pre-race meant a lot, and can't wait to see where it all goes from here.
Was that a tear in your eye, or was it pollen in the air?
I would say that one probably brought a tear to my eye. Yeah, it's you put so much effort into everything that you do with your craft.
Yeah.
And you know this from what you do, and you want to be the best at it, and to be able to have the success and be able to make. I mean, that's been my job. It was my job for 23 years, and now I sit here on this side of the camera, being able to talk about the sport that I love. So you put your whole life into something, and to be able to reap the rewards of all the effort that you put into it is pretty special.
Well, it shows that the sport that you love loves you back. So
yeah,
don't forget that.
I think that that was the one thing that I learned in my last year when I drove is just as competitors, you never really hear what other people think of you much.
Yeah.
And that last year, I heard so many great stories from not only the competitors that I raced against and just those moments of intense competition, battles that you had, disagreements that you had, but from the fans. I think that's the one thing as drivers that when you're locked in, you forget about why the fans watch. They attach to a personality, a person, a family, and you hear so many stories about people that turn the races on because it makes their day better.
Yeah.
And we forget that sometimes as competitors, that we're there to entertain people, and they want to get away from their normal everyday life.
Got to get out of the bubble, man.
And just enjoy 3 or 4 hours of something that takes their mind off of everything. And that was really, really the best moments for me at the last year was to hear the fans' stories of how you changed their life. And on Sunday, they just had that little piece of time where they could root for their guy, watch something, and not have to worry about the rest of the world.
Love that. That's what racing's all about,
It
mate.
is.
Very, very proud of you. Very, very
Thank
happy
you.
for you, mate. Amazing. We were in Barber, where INDYCAR had its 4th race of the season. And once again, it was Alex Palou who came out on top. But that result doesn't actually tell the full story. Christian Lundgaard had the pace to win until a costly pit stop dropped him back to 2nd, while Graham Rahal delivered an absolutely superb drive to secure his first podium in 3 years. The weekend was not without drama. I'm sure you've seen it.
We love drama.
Made it to TMZ.
Yes.
A massive crash for Scott McLaughlin in practice. A huge hit that he thankfully was able to walk away from. Alex Palou now sits just 2 points behind championship leader Kyle Kirkwood. And after Arlington and Barber, it's clear that he can actually be challenged. And Kevin, that's what I'm loving right now, is that even with 2 wins in the season, Palou's not leading the championship, and Arlington showed Kirkwood could catch him, did pass him.
Yes.
And we saw this weekend Lundgaard was catching him and would have had a proper race. Like it's not a foregone conclusion like we may have seen last year.
I've so enjoyed just being and hearing the inside detail that you give me on a week-to-week basis about IndyCar. And the thing that I've picked up the most is nobody really thought that Palou could get beat last year.
Yeah.
And he proved that in the end of the year. But the difference this year, you've got 4 organizations that can go out there and win races.
Yeah.
And from a race series and a race fan perspective, when you see that and that competition level is at the level that it is right now for IndyCar, and your top guy is able to be knocked off by other teams and competitors, shows the work that they have put in over the offseason.
Big time.
And the speed and talent that is there in IndyCar. It's going to be a great year.
This is it, because you look at the first 4 races, right? We kick it off with Alex Palou winning for Ganassi, and everyone's like, oh, God.
Here we go again.
Yeah. Then you get to the second weekend. Penske victory for Joseph Newgarden. Third weekend, Andretti victory for Kyle Kirkwood. And it could have been a McLaren victory yesterday for Christian Lundgaard. We could have had 4 different drivers, 4 different teams across the first 4 races. That's how close it is. But again, McLaren beat themselves.
Yeah, and that's the thing that they're going to have a hard time with Palou. That team has been together for a long time. They're very mature in the way that they communicate. And
they're perfect.
They're perfect. And, you look at the pit stops and the things that ultimately wound up winning the race. It's going to make those teams step up and have to communicate differently to get the details out of their car. And performing at a level to win the race is a much different pressure on pit road in the car than it is racing for 4th or 5th.
Absolutely. And it is a new pressure for Kimi Antonelli in Formula One,
yes.
and one which he is embracing, because at the Japanese Grand Prix, the young Italian made it 2 wins in a row, and in so doing became the youngest driver to ever lead the Formula One World Championship at just 19 years of age. The bigger story, though, came after the race, where Max Verstappen once again suggested that he is considering stepping away from the sport. And Kevin, every time he does this, it seems that he says it with more clarity and more sort of determination around it. And I know that's something that you want to talk about here, because when do you decide that the time is right as a racer?
Well, there's no clear answer. And I think that right now, I believe there are a lot of politics being played. We've got this break. They adjusted the qualifying a little bit with the cars. And, I think that Max is probably the only one that can step out there and be as aggressive as he's being right now with his comments and things. And, you know, I've been in this position where you feel like you're the driver that's leading the charge for the rest of the group that can step out of that box and really push the sanctioning body to do things that they might not want to do because the drivers want it to be a certain way. So I believe that there are some politics here of him threatening to leave to try to get the cars so that the drivers enjoy racing them. And I think that ultimately, if he doesn't get his way, he doesn't need money.
Nope.
He doesn't need to go out and race for money anymore. And I think when you get to that point, you make the decision, I either do this because I love it or I don't do it at all. And I think that he's going to push, and if it doesn't get changed, I think he's out.
Well, this is exactly what he said at the weekend. You know, when you have a scenario where you're not enjoying yourself, you get to the end of the weekend and say, well, why am I bothering? Why am I doing this? I have a young family. I've achieved more than I ever thought I would in the sport. I've got enough money that I never have to work another day for the rest of my life.
Yes.
What's more important?
Oh, well, I mean, look, I had a family late in my career, and it changed the way that my life functioned. And it changed the way that I thought about things. It changed the way that I wanted to spend my time. And ultimately, could I have kept driving another few years? Yes. Did I enjoy driving the car that I was driving as much as the previous generation? No. But all those stars align, and it ultimately all racing is going to evolve into something that doesn't fit what you started with.
Yeah.
Think back to all those drivers that came before Max Verstappen that went through car changes and rule changes, and ultimately for me, it definitely played a decision in what I needed to do, because the time that I had to spend in simulators, the time that I had to spend away from my family, ultimately there comes a breaking point, and this might be it for Max.
Well, and there's also the consideration that motor racing is dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, every time you strap into that car, you're putting your life on the line to do something that you love.
Yes.
To provide entertainment, yes, but ultimately to do something that you love. If you're not loving it,
you're not going to be fast.
But also, why take that risk?
Yeah, and I never really thought about it from that standpoint, because it was always what I did. It was always, if I don't enjoy it and I can't win, I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Because I don't need to make any more money. And when you get to that point, you think differently. And he's at that point of, he doesn't need the money. If it's not fun, why do it?
You mentioned the politics nature of it, and obviously comments coming out of drivers in Formula One this year hoping to see changes to the regulations because they're not happy with the cars this season. There's been a lot from Max this year where I'm not sure how much of it is genuine and how much of it is just to sort of stay in the headlines, knowing that he's not going to be in the headlines because of his race results. You know, kicking the journalist out of the press conference earlier this weekend was something that was universally decried. You know, certainly in our paddock this weekend, talking to drivers, they couldn't believe that he'd done that. And there's a far bigger conversation there to be had about the ecosystem that exists between media and sports stars, and and how that works. But I know Giles, who was the journalist that was kicked out, he's a great journalist. You know, he's not gutter press, he's not sensationalist, he's not one of these people that just goes in for controversy. So I found that odd, and part of me was thinking, is it performative? Has he done this to create a headline in order to stay, in the headlines? And I don't know, because I would like to think that's not where Max's head is at. And again, when it comes to these regulations, Max has been warning about these regulations since they were first announced years ago. He was the first one to sit in a press conference, an official F1 press conference, and say, this is going to be a disaster. If they don't change the regulations, it's going to be awful. No one listened to him. And now they're reaping, ultimately, the repercussions of what he warned against. So I think if we don't take him at face value, certainly when it comes to this, yes, there will be questions of what are his intentions. I think it's legit. Yeah,
I agree. And I don't know why it wouldn't be. I mean, if you've not believed in it from the very beginning, and the sport is going in a different direction, and you're at a point where you don't need it, no reason to keep going, because you're not going to get the most out of yourself. And I believe they're in a rebuilding process as well with the new regulations, Ford, all the new things that they have going on at Red Bull Racing, and sometimes it's just more than you want to do, and ultimately, when you get all those signs pointing to it's not for me, then if you don't have to do it, You don't do it anymore.
By the way, for those who are questioning my belief about Giles, our crew bought some new books for the table this week. Excellent one on the top there. That's mine. But underneath it, and they don't realize this when they bought it, they bought the official, F1 logoed book of the greatest races in Formula One history, written by Giles Richards. You don't get to write an official book about Formula One unless you're considered to be a journalist of record and a reputable journalist. So that's the man that was kicked out.
And I will tell you this: when I was not running good, at times when I was not running good, there were certain people that I just wouldn't answer their questions. If the message wasn't what I wanted it to be in that position, I would make it very hard for the guys that weren't writing what I wanted, or gals that weren't writing what I wanted, very difficult for them to ever write a story. And if they wanted if they wanted to get more out of me, it needed to be in the direction that I wanted to push it in. Because ultimately, if it's going to come down to a strategic battle of what the message is, I want to push my message, not somebody else's. And when they critique it the wrong way, I was tough. I was tough too, so I get it.
So as a journalist, having come from print journalism, worked in broadcasting, my whole career, you will upset somebody at some point. It's going to happen.
It's your job.
It is.
Yes.
It's our job to ask the questions that sometimes you don't want to answer, that you don't feel comfortable with. But we're only going to ask you questions about things that you're uncomfortable with if you fucked up.
Yeah.
Right? If you did something dumb, or you made a mistake, we'll ask you about it. Now, you're not going to want to answer that, but it's our job to ask you.
Yes. And I think that the very high-level drivers are very good at spinning it to what's good for them. And being able to answer those questions. And look, if I get a question that I didn't like and things weren't going good, it was just I would just look at them and just go, who's next?
Right. So on the other side of the coin, now that you are on the other side of the fence,
yes,
should people in a position of power have the ability to dictate the story that is told about them? Should they be able to essentially take away the independence of reporting purely because they and the journalists in the sport obviously rely on them and that good relationship for their livelihood?
Yeah.
But you can't not do your job because you're upset. You're scared of upsetting the other person.
Puts you in a tough spot.
Right.
Which is unbelievable.
And that's what I meant about this ecosystem.
Yes.
And also, you're a traveling circus.
Yes.
And you have to face each other every single... If I piss someone off, right, I would try the next week to have a chat, right?
Yeah.
Talk it out with them before we went to a press conference or anything again. Because when I was doing TV in F1, I would talk to every single driver every single day in that press pen. So if you had beef with somebody, you didn't want it continuing. And most of them understood that it was part of the game.
Yeah.
Right? But there were a couple who would carry it on, and so you'd have to talk it out. And actually, I had a long chat with Max a couple of years ago over something that I'd said. I didn't understand why he hadn't let Perez through to get some points to help him in the championship. And Max was actually still fuming from something that had happened back in Monaco with Checo, and that's why he didn't let him through, which shows to me that Max does have a long memory when it comes to him feeling that he's been wronged. Interesting thing though, Giles was in the Red Bull press conference in Australia and didn't seem to mind, but 2 races later had remembered and kicked off.
Yeah, and I love the inside politics of the athlete, driver, journalists, whoever the reporters, whatever they're reporting for. I loved that game. I love the pushing the dominoes to see what needle could I move to push this in that direction or that direction.
So for you as a sportsman, was it a game for you to play with the press?
I loved it. And I really feel like he's pretty good at it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I feel like he is very very pointed in what he wants to push and how he wants to push it and who he wants to push it to with the messages that he sends. And I think that you have to be. And, it's very interesting because behind the scenes when the drivers are agreeing with you and they're new or the politics within their team say, hey, we don't want you to get in the middle of this. it's like, hey, I agree with you. Or those drivers will come up to you and say, hey, I agree with you. I can't say anything.
Yeah.
Keep pushing.
You get it off the record.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Right. Let's look at MotoGP because Marco Bezzecchi, my word, simply cannot stop winning. Fifth consecutive Grand Prix victory, continuing an historic run that now puts him firmly in control of the championship. The Aprilia rider led a 1-2 finish for the team alongside Jorge Martin, who won the sprint on the Saturday. My personal rider of the weekend. Acosta rounded out the podium. Ken, when you are in that kind of a zone that Bez is in right now, what does that feel like to just turn up everywhere and just... I mean, look, he crashed on Saturday.
He did.
In the sprint, but then bounces back when it matters in the Grand Prix and just he can't stop winning. Yeah,
well, when you have what looks like to be the best bike with Aprilia and you've got arguably the best rider on the bike, it's hard to beat those two things. And ultimately, they always merge. The best riders wind up with the best bikes and the best team and the best people and everything that goes with it. But confidence in racing is an unbelievable piece of the puzzle that a lot of people underestimate. And when you get that confidence and that momentum on your side, the little things that the crashing on Saturday or in practice or whatever it is, you can overcome those things like it's nothing. And he's just in that zone right now to make it happen.
Yeah, totally. Back to Martinsville.
Yeah, so at Martinsville in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, Justin Allgaier went from the pole to victory lane. But I think that one of the biggest stories that stood out over the weekend was Lee Pulliam, driving for Junior Motorsports. He kind of stole the show from everybody just because of the fact a local short track racer in the O'Reilly Series race, and Lee was leading the race late. He had a couple of mischiefs on late restarts with all the pressure and things that were happening. And, I think that when you have these moments, ultimately he finished fifth, but when you have these moments of somebody who never really got a shot, Lee's in his mid-30s, and, Dale gave him the opportunity to come drive that race, it really showcases the short track system and the grassroots system that we have here in America to be able to feed the trucks and O'Reilly. And it's kind of like that American dream story to be able to see him perform and have a chance to win that race at a racetrack that he's had so much success in a late model stock. Was an unbelievable story. I know Allgaier won, but I think Lee Pulliam stole the show. And
his story's amazing, isn't it? Because did he stop racing and went into team ownership?
He did, yeah. So Lee he was the best late model stock racer in this country for several years. And late model stock racing is Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, a little bit in Georgia and that area. So very regional, but ultimately won the NASCAR national championship a few times. And he had not gotten a shot. So he decided, hey, I need to take care of my family. I'm going to take my race team and put other drivers in the car. So he took several years off and actually didn't race. Got the bug, got back in the car, almost won Martinsville. And, he and Dale had a conversation, hey, why don't you come drive my O'Reilly Series car? So he's been racing more late model stock races and actually won at South Boston last weekend. The week before, he was able to get into the O'Reilly Series car. So
what a great story.
Amazing to see how many of the late model fans showed up at Martinsville this weekend to support him.
Oh, man.
Like crazy cheers at driver intros. Everybody loves the underdog.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, it's great.
Love that.
Good weekend for him. Great weekend for Allgaier. I think that in general, the Junior Motorsports O'Reilly Series teams are just hard to beat right now.
Yeah, killing it, right?
Yes.
Amazing. Back to Barber. Indy Next had a double header where in the first race, Alessandro Di Tullio and Max Taylor collided while battling for the win, which handed victory to Nikita Johnson, who retains the championship lead. Di Tullio bounced back on Sunday with a strong win under pressure from, you guessed it, Taylor and Johnson. In Supercross, round 11, it was Ken Roczen who delivered a dominant performance to claim his 25th career win, a result that shakes up the championship as Eli Tomac moves back into the points lead, with Roczen right back in the hunt and setting up a three-way title fight heading into the final stretch. In the world of outlaws, Nick Hoffman took the Chattahoochee Clash Is that pronounced right?
That's right.
Ah, great.
I love it.
Carson Macedo won the Casey Classic. Bobby Pierce grabbed the Billy Clanton Classic. And Michael Kofoid came through in the tall grass tussle. Did I manage to pronounce all that right? That's the latest from across the racing world. But there's always plenty more to come here on Speed.
Hey, Speed fans. This show is fueled by Poet. Poet's zero-carbon bioethanol gives NASCAR drivers the octane they need with zero carbon intensity. When it comes to performance, you can't beat zero. Learn more at poet.com.
And we start with our driver of the week, Kevin. For you, who said? I mean, I know who you've picked.
Look, it's Chase Elliott for me, and when you have the most popular driver of a series get back to victory lane for the first time this year. And with just a gutsy call by his crew chief and Hendrick Motorsports and all the talk about Chevrolet and everybody not being to victory lane, they squashed all that really quickly, putting that 9-car in victory lane.
So not Denny?
Not Denny.
Not Pulliam?
I think the driver of the week has to win. I think
really?
I do.
I fervently disagree.
I love it. That's why we're here.
I fervently disagree because I think you can have an amazing drive and be the driver of the day and not necessarily bring home the win. Was he the driver of the day or is it crew chief of the day?
Well, in the end,
they
go hand
in
hand.
Okay.
They go hand in hand. Okay. It's just like when you look back at Palou and everything that he did over the weekend, was he going to win that race without a great team? And I think that
he was not.
Yeah.
And I've not nominated him for driver of the week because I went for Christian Lundgaard.
Yes.
From 10th on the grid to 2nd, arguably should have won the race, certainly should have been in that fight in the final stages of the race. He's up to 3rd in the championship now. I thought he was utterly phenomenal this weekend. Put the moves in when it counted, made them work, didn't get himself into any sticky situations, drove with conviction, and I think that win should have been his. But for me, he was the driver of the day in INDYCAR. Absolutely astonishing race from him. And it's not easy to pass at Barber. And he made up a huge number of places.
Those guys are all, you can tell this year, those guys are all tired of getting beat by Palou.
Yeah.
And the work and effort and everything that they've put in this year, they're going to win some races, that group.
We had some other drivers and riders in the ultimate fan vote. I think one of them was Bez. It was Bez. The other one was Kimi Antonelli. But it's Chase Elliott who wins. Oh, it's way closer this week.
Yes.
Way closer.
And I think that, Antonelli stole the show, from his last win in this vote. But the power of the most popular driver on the NASCAR circuit overcomes the Formula One crowd this week.
And I lose again.
Well, you know what I love? I love the fact that you stick with what you believe in.
Dude,
in the drive
every
of the
time.
week. And Lundgaard is definitely, I mean, he definitely had a great drive. But, the driver mentality in my brain, it's like, I can't be the driver of the week if I didn't win.
I would like to make you a challenge for next week that you, unless it's like a generational drive for the win, that you don't pick the winner of the NASCAR Cup race, that you pick somebody who started 25th and finished top 10.
I honestly had a tough time choosing between Chase Elliott and Kimi.
Really?
Yes. I mean, I just think that what Kimi is doing is I think that it's amazing. I mean, he's a teenager.
Yeah.
And he's done this all the way through his karting career and all the way through everything that he's done. But it's pretty remarkable when you think about George Russell sitting there right next to him in the same cars, more experience. So I did have a struggle choosing between Kimi.
But Kimi won as well.
I know.
See, could have gone for Oscar
Piastri.
I
know. And I just, it was his second win. It was his second win. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I guess since we're on the Formula One topic and we've talked about the rules and everything that is going on.
And we'll probably continue to
what did you think about Behrman's wreck?
So for those who haven't seen it, Ollie Behrman was in a massive crash in the Japanese Grand Prix, a 50G impact with the barriers after he came across Franco Colapinto's Alpine, which was running hugely slowly. Estimates are between 50 miles an hour and possibly 90 miles an hour, the difference between those two. We're not sure exactly what the closing speed was. And it's the closing speed, mate, that's the issue. And it's something that the drivers have been warning about since pre-season testing. Given that these cars are in a straight line, they're super clipping, and then they're having to harvest, and drivers are not just entering corners and not just cornering slower than you would normally expect them to be, but that on the straight, they're starting to slow down, that you're going to have the potential for airplane crashes, basically. Yeah. And, Behrman's reactions took him out of the way of Colapinto, but it wasn't enough to save him from, spinning over the grass and ending up in the barrier. And, this is the issue. And this is the thing that the drivers have been talking about from day one. The drivers are calling for changes, have been from the first race of the season. The issue is teams, engine manufacturers, they've all got vested interests, right? Ferrari, they realized that the start procedure was going to be a bit tricky, so they created an engine with a smaller turbo so that they would have an advantage at the start, and then all the other teams didn't like that and complained and wanted the start procedure changed, but Ferrari obviously didn't want the start procedure changed because they developed their engine specifically to cope with that. Mercedes have got an amazing engine, so they don't want to see too much change within the regulations because they, at the moment, have got the best power unit in Formula One. Why would you want to see change? And why should you be penalized, right, if you've done the best job within it? But I think it goes a lot deeper than this. Way deeper. Now, because it's not about competitiveness. And the teams are going to be allowed, the engine manufacturers are going to be allowed to change their power units under the regulation if they're a certain percentage off the pace. But it's not about competitiveness anymore. It's about safety. And I think the argument for a lot of these guys was always going to be about safety. And after Suzuka, it's very, very real now for everybody. And the FIA has actually gone on to state that the sport will use the data from the first 3 race weekends to determine what, if any, changes need to be made, because with the races being cancelled in April, they've now got a month, basically, where they can sit down, look at it, and think, have we got it right? Have we got it wrong? Massive investment has been made in these engines, right? We know that. Part of the reason why these engines are the way they are was to try to coax OEMs into the sport, right, and try to bring them into Formula One. So Audi, for example, part of them coming to the sport was because they had this new engine regulation. But when they agreed to this, and when they agreed to having new manufacturers coming in, what they wanted to get rid of was the MGU-H, easy for me to say, MGU-H, which was the motor generator unit heat. So they still have kinetic energy that's being recovered, but the heat energy that used to be recovered from the exhaust, that's gone. The issue that creates is you can harvest energy from the exhaust all the time, but that's gone. When you are harvesting energy through kinetically, you only have it when you're super clipping at high speed, or when you are lifting and coasting, or when you are braking, which means that at the moment they're deploying faster than they can harvest. And that's why they have this situation where they don't have as much power as they need all the time. So how do you fix it, right? And that's the big question.
Yeah, and I think that they got to do something. And I think this is exactly why Max is so frustrated, and all the drivers are frustrated. And when I watched it, I tried to pay a little more attention to the in-car cameras this weekend and how they drive the car. It's so unnatural with the way that you have to lift the things that you do. And it's not in their hands. No, it's not in their hands. And that's what they all want. They want it to be in their hands. They're race drivers.
Right.
And I think that, it's an unfortunate situation of this break that they're getting right now. But it's really a blessing in disguise.
I think so.
For them to fix it. Because if they don't fix it, and the negative sentiment that they keep getting from all the drivers, it's going to drive it into the ground to a certain degree, because they can only spin it so far, because in the end, the drivers are the ones with the microphones.
Yes.
And they're the ones that have the most powerful things to say, and they're already comfortable in saying it, and they can't turn those mics off.
And you've already had a warning shot with Behrman, right? All you need is somebody to really start to decelerate on a straight, somebody get caught unawares and go over the back and fly. Yeah. And you've got a really horrible eventuality. So, ultimately they're stuck with these power units now, right? Yeah. So can they change? Maybe, you limit the deployment, you increase the fuel flow rate, you increase the super clipping limit, something like that. But is it just going to be lipstick on a pig?
Well, and even if it is, they've got to have a short-term fix to get it so that it's closer to feeling more natural.
But to your point, how natural is it going to feel? Because ultimately, everything with the way in which the power units in Formula One work at the moment is down to software, computers, algorithms. It's not down to the drivers being able to determine when they have that power at their fingertips. So we saw drivers in Japan, and again, this is a huge complaint from the drivers. They'd put a move on, and then they'd have no power left, and so they just get past again. And that then falls into the complaints that everyone has about the overtaking and the racing that we're seeing not being real, about it being contrived, because it's ultimately down to not having enough power to defend when you've used it all up to attack, but you don't have a choice in the fact that you've done. Drivers in Japan were saying, you know, I messed up in a corner and I had to lift, and I ended up with more power and a faster time than when I was getting the corners right.
Yeah, it's totally backwards.
It's completely backwards.
And I think that this is when you're going to see what the new ownership and management and everything, that everybody that is in charge, you want the teams involved, you want the teams to be all aligned, but these hard decisions, sometimes you have to say this is what's best for the sport. But how you get out of that is very difficult with ways designed.
If you make bingo, that they've designed them, right? And there's been a huge investment, huge amount of money, huge amount of time gone into these new for 2026 engines. So what are they going to do? Redesign them completely for 2027? Because you can't completely redesign them now, even if they're allowed the capability to do so. Because you're going to then have to completely redesign the cars, because the cars, the packaging, everything for those engines has been designed specifically around these engines. So if you change the architecture, which you're never going to be able to do on a quick timescale anyway, you have to change the car as a result. So, okay, maybe you do that for 2027, but then we're getting towards the fact that Formula One's going to change its engine regulations again in the early 2030s, we understand, maybe going back to V8s or V10s and moving away from whatever this nonsense that
this
it is
concoction
at the
that they have of an engine.
They're going to get rid of that. So do they just pull that forward? They've got a massive decision to make. And ultimately what this is right now is New Coke.
Yeah.
You remember when Coca-Cola brought out New Coke?
Right.
You have the best-selling product on the market, and you change the recipe, and people hate it. So what do? Do you stick with it and either try to convince people that New Coke is delicious and they should carry on drinking New Coke, or do you go back to a recipe that people know and love?
I think the cat's already out of the bag. Everybody knows that all the drivers hate it, and you're never going to convince the fans that it's good to watch.
No,
because it really isn't. I mean, if you are a race
I
fan,
enjoyed Japan more than I enjoyed the first two races.
It got better, but I mean,
but it's still contrived.
It's still awkward.
Yeah,
everything about it is awkward, and the drivers are not enjoying anything about it. And how far do you want to run it in the ground? I guess for how long? But
the biggest thing about this though is I don't want people to think that we're sitting here knocking Formula One out of some desire that that's going to help NASCAR or that's going to help INDYCAR, because I don't believe it will. I think a strong Formula One is a benefit for motorsport in general. Because the more people that we can get into loving this sport, and right now through the amount of money that they're spending and the global reach that Formula One has, the more popular Formula One can become, the more globally, internationally, and within these United States, the more popular motorsport in general, I believe, will become.
I would agree.
If you've got new fans in Formula One and they're turned off by this, are they automatically going to turn to NASCAR or INDYCAR as an alternative if they're brand new?
Yeah.
I'm not convinced they would yet have enough of an emotional draw to motor racing to want to search for something else. So I want to see a successful Formula One, because I think that benefits everybody globally.
And that's why we're here.
Exactly.
Because we love all racing and we want Formula One to be successful. But when I turn it on, I want to hear who can go through that corner wide open. And he's braver than the guy behind him. I don't want to hear who's saving their damn battery.
Because the differentiator in motorsport has always been who has either the skill or the guts to do the thing that the other guy
100%.
can't or won't.
That's right.
And if you are, and the drivers in Japan were saying, fast corners in Formula One don't exist anymore. You only have medium speed corners. So if you are going out, and Fernando Alonso said 50% of the members of his team could drive this car. If anyone off the street can jump into a Formula One car and drive it, it's no longer Formula One.
No.
And the definition of what determines great from good no longer exists.
Right.
And that is the greatest sadness of it.
In the end, the drivers are the stars. And if the drivers aren't the stars, the cars never will be.
Couldn't put it any better than that. Right, now it's your turn to be part of the show. We've talked enough. You can reach us at Speed on Fox across social media, or leave us a voicemail at 213-534-7107. That's 213-534-7107. And as always, let us know your name and where you're tuning in from. Right, first voicemail of the week.
Hello, this is Roman from Tennessee. NASCAR has been to a lot of road courses inside of America recently, and even a few internationally, such as Mexico. What's a road course outside of the U.S. that you would love NASCAR to come and try out?
Oh,
that's a good one, and it's a
one.
really quick, easy answer for me. It's Montreal. The Cup Series has never been to Montreal. We used to take the O'Reilly Series up to Montreal. I love the fan base. I love the track, and we have so many NASCAR fans in Canada.
Bathurst, Spa-Francorchamps, Suzuka. Our
cars were great at Suzuka.
I could rattle off 100 tracks I would love to see NASCAR at. Silverstone. I would love to see any of the great classic European road courses. I'd love to see how NASCAR would deal with them. Yeah, I think it would be great fun.
And Suzuka was such a great event when we went back, when we went to Suzuka back in the late 90s. They did an exhibition race there. And it's just such a unique place with the way that track flows. Yeah. Suzuka would be a lot of fun.
Has NASCAR ever done Fuji?
Never done Fuji.
With the Toyota connection?
No.
Oh, that'd be fever.
Yeah, and I think that really, any of those European road courses would be great. I think.
Suzuka and Fuji, obviously in Japan, not in Europe.
But I think Silverstone would be one that's got that tradition and everything that goes with its circuit.
You know what? I think Budapest would be a lot of fun for NASCAR. It's it's in a natural bowl, so the fans can kind of see everything. It's got a nice kind of back and forward feel to it. I think that could be fun as well.
What's the one with I'm drawing a blank right now with the crazy fast 2 corners up the hill right there.
Spa.
Yeah.
Spa.
I can't remember 3-letter words.
NASCAR's at Spa in an absolute
heartbeat.
My
gosh, going up that hill would be unbelievable.
Brands Hatch.
Yeah.
Take a list of European tracks and just tick them all.
You could make a good show out of it anywhere, but I think for me, Montreal with our fan base already built in up there.
Yeah.
Cup Car's never been there, and such a great circuit.
Dijon.
I don't know that one.
Oh, Dijon's great. Proper old school classic track in France. Yeah, nice flow, bit Watkins Glenny.
Okay.
I think that could be cool.
Yeah. Fast.
Yeah.
Yes.
That'd be mega. Right, another voicemail.
Hi, Will and Kevin. I'm Paige, and I live in Georgia right now. Susie Wolf has created incredible opportunities for women in motorsport with the F1 Academy series, and my question for you is, do you foresee similar series developing for INDYCAR or for NASCAR? And if so, who would you choose to sort of champion that project?
That's a great question. You'd have to go down the INDYCAR road. I think for me, well, we have, I think Jade Abedisian right now and what Toyota has done with her, she's been through the system all the way up right now. So she's starting to dip into the ARCA series, has done all the super late models, pro late models, midgets, all the things that come with our grassroots system here. So I think that Toyota has probably done the best job in really making sure that they have the opportunity for these women to go through the ranks properly. And that was the thing that I used to always tell Danica. She used to say, what do I need to do to get better? I'm like, you're never going to catch up, because where you started and the things that you did weren't based on what it takes to be a successful NASCAR driver. She did a great job and had success and at a certain level. But she never had the reps in the late models and the grassroots system, ARCA cars, and all the things that it took to gain the experience that it was going to take to be competitive week in and week out at the Cup level. And
this is something we've spoken about at length, both on this show and on the interviews that we've had with racers, is about that specializing at an early age in order to be the best that you can possibly be. This is such a complex issue, and it's something I think we could do an entire episode on. Motorsport by its nature is not segregated. So should we be encouraging segregation for a championship that by its nature is not segregated? And that's a really lengthy argument and a tough one. But I remember the days of Formula BMW Europe and Formula BMW Americas and Formula BMW Asia as an entry-level open-wheel system. And it was brilliant because it gave kids from different parts of the world an opportunity to progress out of go-karts and get their first slicks and wings races. Now, that was segregation because you could only compete in those championships if you came from those countries. But what it was doing was it was giving them an opportunity to learn their craft and then progress up into a place where it wasn't segregated on the basis of nationality or where you live, and brought all together. It was just a simple genesis point. And I think the same is true of F1 Academy, that ultimately it's for these young girls, very, very kind of early in their careers, to give them the knowledge base that they will need to then move forward with their careers and move up to Formula 3, Formula 2, and hopefully to Formula 1. INDYCAR has never, I don't think, really had the need for it because women have made it to INDYCAR, have made it to the Indy 500.
Yes.
Catherine Legg, we understand, will be back at the Indy 500 this year. Danica, you mentioned her, trod her own path, made her own way, successful in INDYCAR, last female podium finisher. Last race winner, female race winner in INDYCAR. Simona de Silvestro, a podium finisher. Simona, I think would be a brilliant person to kind of run something like that in the INDYCAR series if we were to ever have it. But really it has to come at a very, very early level. And before you get up to the level of an Indy Next or something like that, we saw Hayley Deegan really struggle in Indy Next last year. We've seen Lindsay Brewer struggle when she tried to do Indy Next as well. And I think the reason for that is because when they were progressing out of karts, they maybe didn't have the foundational education in cars that they needed in order to then move up. And
I think Hayley Deegan, I think she misstepped.
Yeah, I agree.
She made some bad decisions along the way when she got out of the Toyota program. Toyota had done everything that they thought that they needed to do to keep progressing her. And I think when Ford came along, they pushed her in a direction that was not the wrong direction, and she wasn't ready for. There's just no matter. And that's the problem is when you get into a position where you have opportunities like, oh, I can go race a truck or I can go run an O'Reilly Series car or a Cup car. It's very intriguing, but are you ready?
Yeah.
And skipping those steps because you have an opportunity and not getting the proper time in the development that it takes is really where she misstepped, in my opinion. Yeah. And now she's back, in the ARCA Series and trying to regain that traction that she had and was successful at the ARCA level to get properly prepared. But right now, Toyota does it better than anybody else from the other two manufacturers on the NASCAR side compared to Ford and Chevrolet, because they take the time, and they're doing it right now. They've done it with several of the female ladies that have driven so far through the series, and they give them the time to make the mistakes and the opportunities to continue progressing up the ladder with the time that it takes.
It's the thing I love about our sport is that it doesn't matter male, female, nationality, race. There's only one thing that counts, and that's the stopwatch. That's right. That's it. That's the only thing that matters. Question from Fernando. If you could both commentate one historic race live, which one would it be? Oh, that's a good one.
Well, I've always been an F1 fan, so just sitting there at Monaco and watching those cars go around the racetrack, you're spoiled. You've already been there.
I've got to say, doing the Monaco Grand Prix, you'd hate it because you got to pull stuff. I know. Out of the recesses of your mind. But it's just the environment and
being there one time, you could probably pull stuff out of your ass for a while. I'm not saying that I have to do it twice, but I'll figure out how to make it work one time.
I would have loved to have called Alexander Rossi's win at the Indy 500 because I'd known Alex for a really long time. And I remember, actually, talk about Monaco, we were sitting in a hotel on the outskirts of Monaco eating roadside burgers, listening to Indy radio, because it was the only way we could get hold of the race, because it wasn't carried on the French channel. And listening to Alex win win the Indy 500. I would have loved to have called that race.
That Bathurst race would be fun too.
Oh yeah, Bathurst would be great.
DW and those guys got to go over there and do that a long time ago. And
That
just looks like it. That just listening to SVG and Scotty talk about those races over there. It also sounds like it's a good time.
What NASCAR race from history would you choose to would you commentate? Would you like to have commentated on one of your race wins?
Oh, I think that if I had to choose one of my race wins, it'd probably be the 2007 Daytona 500 that I was able to win, just because of the way that whole finish played out right there, and beating one of our sports legends in Mark Martin, because I was like 32nd. I think at one time with like 15 laps to go. So, those comeback calls are a lot of fun, and I think that one, if I had to pick one of mine, that would probably be the one that was the most exciting.
Yeah, the Rossi win at the 500. Yeah, no fuel, literally runs out of fuel coming out of the last corner and just coasts over the line with no engine. Like incredible. Keep those questions coming. Speed on Fox on social media, or give us a call, as always, on the voicemail 213-534-7107. And when you do, as always, and as we keep asking you to, let us know your name and where you're from. Kevin, which question should we pick this week for the bobbleheads? Bobbleheads, apparently, I think we said it last week. They're in the not in the studio. They're in the offices.
Yeah, I think for me, I like the women in motorsports question.
Cool.
Yeah,
we'll go with that.
I just think it's just such a great topic of conversation.
You know what? It's probably an episode that we should have. I'd like to do an interview, maybe with Susie Wolf. About
that'd be great.
About how we progress that, if it's required out here. I think that would be really. Let's get a panel together.
Yes,
I think that would be a really good one. So yes, you have sparked our imagination. Bobbleheads will be coming to you, Paige in Georgia. Thank you very much for the question. Right, we've got something new this week. It's going to be called Replay Review, where Kevin and I take a look at some of the best and maybe wildest moments from the racing world this racing weekend that you may have missed. Kevin, I think you're going to have to explain what half of these are, because I'm not.
That's okay.
I'm not entirely sure. Cletus, what's he doing?
Well, Cletus he took the RFK guys, Brad Kay and Chris Buescher and Ryan Preece out to Talladega, and they have these Crown Vics. So we race these Crown Vics all over the country. Cletus has some big Crown Vic races, and they're trying to see how fast they can make these cars go. But when they tandem drafted all four of these cars together, they got it up to 159 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, so
we need to try that with the Weenie 500 cars.
Yeah, you think they'd let us push and shove with the Wienermobiles?
I don't know if you're allowed to. They're museum pieces.
Yeah, these guys were locking bumpers and bump drafting. So,
love that.
I don't know that. I don't know the engines they'll last very long. Usually they're old police cars that you go get them at the auction and put a roll cage in them and race them.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Blues
fun.
Brothers style.
Cletus is always having fun.
The next one, I've seen a little clip of this already. This is uncanny. Keelan and Kevin together. I'm not sure which is which, mate. When I first saw this video that Flo posted, I was like, I had to rewind it. And you look at his hand and the way that he turns the steering wheel and everything that he's doing in there. I'm definitely glad to know that he's 100% mine. It's even the separation of his fingers on the right hand. Like they're at exactly the same distance and exactly the same angle.
And we did this video. These are in our super late models at Kern Raceway a couple weeks ago. So I guess he's listening, but I never told him how to hold the steering wheel. I never told him where to put his steering wheel.
He looks a lot more relaxed behind the wheel, mate.
Yeah,
I've got to be honest.
I'm old. I'm hanging on for dear life. He's in there having a great time. I still have fun, but he's way more comfortable with it than I am.
Sticking with something that you know rather well, Cars Tour Chaos. This is fun, man.
Yeah.
I've got to get to one of these.
Yes, so this is Cars Tour and Minnie Tyrell, who's in the Truck Series right there in the 81. Doug Barnes, one of our local racers that we see a lot. But these guys have a little bit of a history. It kind of went overboard this weekend at our smallest track at Wake County. So these guys definitely took it a little bit too far.
A little bit.
Made it exciting for the fans. And yeah, you're right. It's not over with. Doug Barnes decides that, well, you've ruined my day. I'm going to ruin yours. So
absolutely wild.
Not something that as owners, myself, Dale Jr., Jeff Burton, and Justin Marks own the Cars Tour series, and we've already had a lot of conversations about the things that we have to talk about with our drivers and teams and the expectations of our series from this weekend. So that was not what
is that not what's expected?
That is not what's expected.
No. But if it hadn't happened, it might not have made the show.
It's very spectacular. It's very spectacular, but yeah, they could have done better and still made it spectacular.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I know.
I loved it. And finally, this is a random one. I love this. Steve Austin.
Who knew?
Was victorious at the Prospector 250.
I had no idea.
Nor
that
me.
Steve Austin raced anything.
Absolutely incredible. Supercharged his way to the Stock Mod Pro Class win. Breakthrough victory. And that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so.
You a wrestling fan?
Oh, you bet.
Oh, I love wrestling.
You bet.
Yes.
I mean, more like 1990s.
Me too.
Wrestling. I was an Ultimate Warrior fan. And Legion of Doom.
Yeah.
All of that. That's my
Hacksaw
era.
Jim Duggan.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Bret the Hitman Hart.
Yes.
I think I actually ran with the headline. You remember when Sebastian Vettel got denied the win in Canada with Lewis Hamilton for kind of squeezing him against the wall or jumping over the curbs? I can't remember the exact details behind it. I named that the Montreal Screwjob in honor of Bret the Hitman Hart. I've also dubbed Alex Palou the excellence of execution after Bret the Hitman Hart, but then I
gotta start paying attention to all these wrestling one-liners.
Then I get very confused because I also call him Mr. Perfect. So I love my wrestling, mate.
That's great.
Love my 90s.
It was part of my childhood.
Same. Right, it's a bit of a lighter week across the motorsports calendar with the Easter weekend, but there are still a few races worth keeping your eyes on. Here's what you need to have on your radar in the final lap. The O'Reilly Auto Parts Series returns on Saturday, April 4th as the championship battle continues to take shape with key points on the line. The NASCAR Truck Series heads to Rockingham Speedway on Friday, April 3rd at 4:30 Eastern on FS1, bringing short track intensity back to one of the sport's most historic venues. And in Supercross, round 12 is in St. Louis. Racing gets underway at 7 p.m. Eastern, where the fight for the championship continues to heat up as the season hits a critical stretch. Plus, next episode of INDYCAR on Fox's All In is out now, going inside Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing at Arlington, and the dynamic between Graham Rahal and Mick Schumacher. It is, I've seen it. Obviously, I should promote it because it's on Fox and it's to do with INDYCAR, but it's really good. And it's short. It's like quarter of an hour. Less than that.
I got to catch up so I could binge watch it.
Dude, it's really, you don't need to binge it. It's like literally 10 minutes out of your day.
Perfect.
It's a lovely episode because Graham's got that responsibility at the team of carrying the Rahal name. Mick's turning up in IndyCar carrying the huge weight of responsibility that being Michael Schumacher's kid, brings with it. And just how the two of them kind of bring that to bear together. And I watched it on the lead up to Barber. And so with Graham running to a podium in Barber, it was great because he comes out with some really beautiful kind of emotional lines in the show. It just really made me, and I said like unapologetically on the coverage, I was just like, I'm rooting for this guy. Like I don't even care. I'm not being impartial now.
Hey, we're race fans too, so every once in a while, sitting up there, you just have to root for the great story. And Graham Rahal doing well and winning is a great story.
Oh, it's lovely. And one of the lines that he comes out with on the show is, he's got the money. He's not doing it for the money. He's not doing it for the ego. He wants to do something so that his kids can see him on a podium and just be proud of daddy. And I'm just like, oh, mate, that just...
Nothing better.
Heart exploded.
Nothing better than having that picture.
What are you looking forward to this weekend?
Well, we're actually going to go race. Keelan's going to race late model stock car at Southern National up near Raleigh, North Carolina.
Wait, you're telling me there's a weekend with no NASCAR Cup Series racing?
There's no NASCAR Cup Series racing.
What is happening to the world?
So what are we going to do? We're going to go race anyway. And then I'm actually going to go, Keelan and I are going to go turkey hunting. For 3 or 4 days. So
amazing. What, like in the supermarket? You're just going to try and find a good one?
We're going to go with our friends from Realtree. We're going to go out in the woods and do a proper hunt.
Oh, and eat turkeys.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
I'm moving house this weekend.
Well, thank goodness.
Thank goodness. It's been long. It's been 6 months.
Way too long.
But that is all we've got time for, folks. Otherwise, we'll just go off on some wild tangent. There's still plenty to come up this week. Coming up on Wednesday, Kevin had a fantastic interview with Dana White. None other than Dana White. How was that?
Yeah, he's always a great interview. So Dana is obviously involved in the Dodge racing program and has some interest in other racing aspects of the world. So always a great conversation with Dana.
Magic. Can't wait to see that. I said it was fantastic. That's what the script said. I'm actually very much looking forward to seeing it. And after that, Easter weekend coming up. We won't have a full recap show next week, but we've still got 2 great interviews dropping on the Monday and the Wednesday, so make sure you don't miss those if you're enjoying the show, and we hope you are. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, follow us on social media, and jump into the comments to let us know what you thought and what you want to see next. Thanks, as always, to our friends at Poet. Poet, as you know by now, produces high-octane bioethanol, delivering maximum performance with 0 carbon intensity. You can't beat 0. I've been me and he's been him. Him being Kevin Harvick and me being Will Buxton. Thanks for watching Speed with him and me, Harvick and Buxton, fueled by them, Poet. Now, let's send you out with the best wrecks of the week.
VK. Oh, big one, huge! That's Scott McLaughlin. Yeah. That's a horrible incident. That's horrible.
Control, pulling on the outside. That was definitely a misshift. Big damage there for the one of Carson Quapple. They're scattered, and it is a parking lot on the front straightaway at Martinsville.
And Scott Dixon, which is a big surprise.
But
he's into the wall. Wow. A big one.
Back to the lead. Tyrrell up in the window net of Doug Barnes.
As Barnes is going to try to lift the back tires and dumps Mini Tyrrell into turn 1.
Ferrari you like so much, and that was a tricky one. There was a touch there, and
35th Grand Prix DNF in 59 appearances for Honda.
Win light's gonna go to Perkinson. How about dead 1? And Randy is in trouble down on the top end.
Turn 11. Oh, it's Salach, isn't it? Oh no, it's
in the World Championship going into this one. Behrman avoiding action around the Alpine, heavily into the barrier.
Oh, we got
trouble.
Oh,
Pow.
man. I'm telling you what, there's got to be more to that story. And Bubba Wallace just drove flat through the 77 car.